My fondest memories of childhood were 88 to 95. That is 1988 to 95, not 18. I brought my teddy bear, Jolene. She was given to me by a surrogate grandmother, a very good family friend, and I used to get names for pets out of children's books, so my guess is that I came across an interesting character that was named Jolene, but of course now I just think about Dolly Parton, which of course she reminds me nothing of Dolly Parton.
Growing up in the 50s, there were influences. So the war was still very, very popular in movies and stuff like that. TV had just come out. So Superman was big, and cowboys were big during that period of time as well. But I think the biggest influence for any boy in America during that time period would have been baseball. So my toys were a bat and a glove. This is a Rawlings baseball glove and a Louisville Slugger signed by Rocky Calavito. These were the things that I used basically every day.
Today I have brought a Brio horse and one of the Barbies that I had growing up. Skipper is her name. And she was these horses and Barbies were one of my favorite things to do and play with. She's pretty special to me because my grandmother would make clothes for my Barbie, and for holidays and such I would always get, when I'd visit Grandma, new dresses, and so this one's really pretty special dress to my heart. I would spread out the whole ranch stable Barbie in a whole basement and hog up all the space. And amongst spreading the toys out would cause the wars between my brother and I. And he would come in and sabotage my Barbies. So the wars began, albeit my best friend to this day is my brother, and he's probably my favorite childhood memory. And today when we get together, we still act like children.
Big tinker toys, little tinker toys. You could spend hours doing this. I used to make windmills because I grew up in western Nebraska. And so I don't have enough materials left anymore to build my windmills. Well, it makes me feel really good that I used to play with something like that. They're pretty simple. They're not complicated at all. And so it's fun just to look back and imagine what I was able to build out of something that simple. It's just sticks and little round things. I mean, it's very simple.
This teddy bear was given to me when I was about 4 by some family friends. And after that, I slept with it every night until I was a teenager. And it was a problem because we didn't have a regular washing machine. My mother had a wringer washer, so she had to wash it by hand. And of course, we didn't have a dryer. It had to dry on its own, and sometimes it wouldn't be dry by the time I was ready to go to bed at night. He was originally pink. You can't tell that now because I haven't tried to wash him on my own for all this time. But so I named him Pinky.
One of my favorite toys was the AMF Rumbler, which was made by the AMF company when they owned Harley-Davidson, so it's kind of like a little Harley for kids. I rode home from being born on the back of a Harley-Davidson. I was probably 4 to 6 years old. My parents bought it at a yard sale for $10, and it was my chopper.
One of my favorite dolls was this was my first Ginny doll. Ginnies were very big in the 50s before Barbie came along. And my dolls would have tea parties. My sister and I, she was 4 years younger, would get a blanket out in the front yard under the elm tree, and we'd take our doll furniture and our dolls and have tea parties. It's really wonderful to see it, and gives me pleasure to think of my grandparents who are now gone and all the loving time Grandma spent in sewing the things for them, and Grandpa making the bed. It's not as fancy maybe as what they have now, but it's very special.
My father was in the Army, and we came back from Japan, and I got to start reading comic books for the first time, and I wanted a Daisy Red Ryder BB gun so badly. My father was in the competitive rifle and pistol business in the Army, so he was very safety conscious about weapons, and he had an idea that little boys who were only 10 or 11 years old didn't need to have a weapon. So I very assiduously studied the safety stuff, and I finally convinced Dad that I could have a BB gun.
My favorite toy was my first Cabbage Patch Kid, Cathy. I got her at Christmas in 1984. I was 4 and a half. And I remember running downstairs, and my older sister had also gotten the Cabbage Patch Kid for Christmas, and she opened hers first, and she showed me, and I was so devastated that I didn't have one. I burst into tears, and my mom had to take me over to my pile of presents from Santa to show me that I had one too.
So I didn't have a favorite toy per se. My sister and I played with our hamsters every chance that we could get. They were all named after a candy. We had M&M. We had marshmallow, butterscotch. We would put the hamsters in the balls and let them roll all around the house. And we loved doing that almost every day after school.
Monkey has survived, so he's a very favorite toy. He was from my mother's youngest brother, my little uncle. My first Christmas, he sent it, and he was only 16. He eventually went into the Korean War, which I finally saw him when I was about 4. And when at my first daughter's first Christmas, he sent her a monkey. So it was like amazing. It was just, I had forgotten all about that connection, but he didn't. Since I thought about him and found him again in his little box, I've been holding him while I watch TV. It feels very comfortable because you can just hug him right around his waist.
One of my favorite toys was actually my Brio set. When I was really, really young, I really liked trains in general, so much so that, that whenever I saw a train coming by when we were on a road trip or something like that, my parents would actually literally have to make sure that I wasn't looking towards the train, because the entire time I'd just be like, oh, we need to be on the train, we need to be on the train. And my parents were like, oh my God, we can't. Look over there, there's antelope or whatever.
When I lived in Neyland, California, we lived out in the redwoods, and there used to be a raccoon that would come out every night, and we probably fed it, and we named him Rico. And then one night he didn't show up, and I was very bummed because raccoons became my favorite animal, and my parents got me Rico, and he became my best friend.
My favorite toy, one of my favorite toys, was a balsa wood glider. Back when I flew them, they were about 39 cents for a balsa wood airplane. My dad was in the Navy. He flew a torpedo bomber in World War II, and he loved airplanes, and that infected me with a love of flight and airplanes. I remember trying to make them do maneuvers, such as loop the loop, and we would have contests trying to see who could get their balsa wood glider to fly the farthest. If you read closely enough, it says move wing forward to make it fly in loops, or to climb and slide wing back for longer glides. So you could learn some of the principles of how an airplane flew by building and playing with your glider.